Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. Today I wanted to do a bit of a flip on the head of the video when I talked about 10 things that had been nerfed, because there are plenty of extremely powerful methods people use to take advantage of certain aspects of the game. Yes, I know the 10 video format again, well, I could find that many things to talk about, so I thought why not. Also, it's a nice number to cover. Do consider dropping a sub and a like if you do enjoy the content. It helps me out greatly and lets me know whether you want to see more of this type of video. It's just worth a mention not to say that anything in this video should receive a nerf, and honestly I don't even think you could really nerf many of the things in this video without fundamentally changing aspects of the game. Here we go then, 10 ways players break the game that still haven't got hit with a nerf hammer. Number 1, the power of AoE. You know, back about a year ago when you're on that character create screen and made the right choice and picked the Mage, a class that has 4 uncapped AoE abilities that make it totally insane in any scenario where you're hitting multiple targets. 4 abilities baseline too: Arcane Explosion, Blizzard, Flame Strike and Cone of Cold. How many other classes have baseline? Warlock's got 2, Hellfire and Rain of Fire. Rogues none. Druids have Hurricane, Hunter's Volley. Shaman have their totems, which are somewhat reliable. Warriors nothing, and Paladins nothing, unless you want to count Holy Wrath, which has its place, but it's not exactly a game breaker. The thing is about Mage AoE is most of it can crit as well. Channeled spells cannot crit. And what's this? A talent that gives you plus 50% crit chance, and another 2 that put a 75% slow on every single mob you hit from miles away, that you can down rank and proc clear casting to make higher ranks of Blizzard free to cast. Wow, that sounds almost too good to be true. Imagine if you could pull entire dungeons or even raids worth of trash with that combination of spells. AoE doesn't get capped until TBC of course, but well, we will see a few more examples throughout the video of how mages are really able to break the game by themselves on a whole different level to what anyone else can do. Speaking of which, a method that was found out very early into Classic's life cycle, the Zul'Farrak graveyard farming. This method was pretty much teched and solved out a little over 1 month after Classic had come out. I can find videos from early to mid-October on YouTube no problem. This was really the first endgame use of mages AoE to their advantage, and the first of many tricks that came to light that proved mages to be the ultimate gold farming machines. The premise is simple enough. Head on over to the graveyard and Zul'Farrak, buff up, start clicking the graves, then running through them all and gathering all of the mobs up. Once you're low enough on health and have enough of the mobs, just hop onto a ledge nearby with the bosses and they will all be unable to reach you and will reset. Then you're free to rebuff, eat up to full health, get those shields going again, mount up and then run back through them all, nova them, and then just blizzard them down. This farm was particularly good for raw gold, which made it very consistent, unlike many other farms at the time, which were RNG heavy or involved open world resource farming, which entailed all the usual competition. At this point now, mages have pretty much all moved on from Zul'Farrak raw gold farming, simply because a whole host of other new methods have become available which are just better. Zul'Farrak is still used by mages to boost lower level characters or to boost themselves, however, as mages can be used to solo level up. In any event, this was never changed and is still there for entry level gold farming and boosting on a mage with a bit less gear. Number 3, the amount of rich thorium veins, or rich teas as I like to call them as a Brit, you can guaranteed find at the end of Diamall East. Maybe this was a bit more common knowledge than I had believed it to be, but there did seem to be quite a bit of surprise shortly after Diamall came out, and people quickly found out that there was 2 to 3 rich teas in the cave leading to the exit of the instance. And over time, let's just say that I'm a little bit more than just familiar with how to get this place done fast, and there is certainly more than a little bit of mob pathing abuse to get to the end here as soon as possible. It's even come to be apparent that you don't need to even have defeated the last boss to claim the prize at the end. And of course you can mine each rich tea 2 to 4 times, and there's about a 1 in 30 chance to get an arcane crystal each time you do so. So it is definitely more RNG heavy than other farms out there, but sometimes you just have an amazing spree of luck and pull 2 arcanes from one vein and it feels incredible to do. I'm a little over 1k runs total in this place and just above 700 since I reset DBM a while ago, and I'm closing in on my goal of 1k total. This farm remains as strong as ever, though it does require the mining profession to get the most out of it, and if you can pick up herbalism as well, there are Dreamfoil and Gromsblood in the conservatory, as well as Ghost Mushroom inside the building proper. It's been a real go-to farm for me in Classic. Number 4. Premades. You may remember in the Nerfs video how I pointed out that Blizzard had attempted to nerf Alliance Alterac Valley premades on 2 separate occasions. What hasn't been changed is the ability for either faction to queue into Warsong Gulch or Arathi Basin as a premade and have a massive advantage against their less organised and usually less geared opponents. This is just another side effect of the ranking and honor system really, where you need to earn as much honor as possible to achieve higher ranks, meaning that it makes sense to join up with like-minded people in order to maximize your gains. Premades are a common complaint in PvP, though surprisingly from both sides of the player base. Your pug player doesn't like rolling the dice between either getting put against other pugs or getting absolutely curb stomped and GY farmed by an organised group of players, and many people who join as a stacked premade to rank also end up finding it boring after a few games of never really having to actually PvP or experiencing a challenge, meaning level capped non-ranking PvP participation is frankly very low, which is quite a shame to be honest. World PvP isn't much better on many servers either, it more or less burned itself to ashes in Phase 2. Then again, premades boost the number of games going on quite considerably, and this was proven to be the case because shortly after the Alliance Alterac Valley premade nerfs, the Horde queue times went up that much more. AV was also changed, you can queue as a premade with a maximum of 5 people in a 40-man game, yet it's fine for Warsong Gulch to be a 10-player stack, or Arathi Basin to be 15-player stack somehow. I don't think you need to separate the queues, I think that would just lower PvP participation to an all-time low, but if you did want to change, I'd make premades capped to far fewer players in Warsong Gulch or Arathi Basin, 3 or 5 respectively. Enough players to have an impact, but not always decide the game. Number 5, the AQ, war effort prep, and just patch knowledge in general. Unless Blizzard pulls off one of the biggest trolls ever, the war effort will be completed within a few hours on many servers. It's still a couple of days off at this point, but guilds have been assembling materials to complete the effort and dig into the new content as soon as possible for months now. Well, assuming some of the more dedicated players haven't gotten banned for farming literally thousands of linen cloth, which really happened to some people. Advanced knowledge of patches have always been such a massive advantage, whether it's investing, getting materials for new items, or preparing to make new consumables or enchants. Our knowledge of what comes next and never changing has always been a very powerful tool to have at our disposal, and Blizzard are sticking to the script of whatever comes next, never requiring different items than expected, which makes our marketplace very predictable and easily cornered by players, though Blizzard typically doesn't like when you do this. In any event, if you have prepared items for the war effort to hand in and you are on a bigger server, I strongly advise making sure that you have everything ready to hand in and that you stay up to whatever time the patch goes live to save yourself the disappointment of getting back in the evening and finding the item you have 2,000 of isn't needed for the war effort anymore and now is worth next to nothing on the auction house. Number 6, the ZG bridge. ZG, it was about time we got to this right, you know the one, where you can hop back and forth. Another example of players figuring out how to make mod pathing work perfectly to their benefit. In fact, some of the guides for pulling all the trash in ZG are so well thought out and perfected now, it's crazy. It only took about 1 or 2 weeks after Zul'Gurub was released for this method to have fully emerged as well. And which class can take advantage of this then? You already know, the same class that gets free food and water and can teleport and make portals as well. You know mages were actually going to get lockpicking in the vanilla beta as well. It didn't feel right that another class could do something that a mage couldn't, or something like that. Another great way for our frosty friends to press Blizzard whilst raking in loads of gold, not only from the drops from the enemies they defeat, but also very good XP for lower levels that they are boosting at the same time. Hundreds of gold per hour consistently too. Not gonna lie, this isn't just something you pick up in 10 minutes, but after you wipe a few times and get it down, it's really not that hard as long as you bring along the correct consumables. Number 7, modern add-on power. Even though there were a good few add-ons which got a swift whack with the ban hammer, we still have plenty more that are extremely powerful and make the game much more accessible and in many ways easier, far more so than vanilla players ever had it. Azeroth Autopilot can get you to level 40, no problem on any class without any real thought from yourself. Classic cast bars, well, gives enemies cast bars, which is extremely useful as it lets you know what they're doing and how soon it's going to happen. Classic aura durations shows buffs and debuff timers as well as enemy buffs from reading the combat log, another thing that makes you so much more aware of your surroundings. Some people mentioned that this is a big reason that dispellers know who to hit and that it should be removed, which would certainly solve the problem, but it'd be at quite a high cost. In any event, there are certainly far more powerful add-ons that are allowed to exist in the game than ones Blizzard have decided to remove. Number 8, classic mob pathing. Just their pathing in general is really weird and wonky and doesn't make a lot of sense a lot of the time. There are plenty of times where mobs seemingly have a fairly straight path to you, but they decide to take the long way around, and there's other times where there's a massive building between you and your target and they just sort of dissolve through it and hit you like a ghost or something. Oh, and then there's the vertical melee hitbox as well, where no matter how far below you or above you a mob is, they will always be able to melee you. And there's plenty of dungeon runs and techniques, which I certainly use as well, that rely solely on the fact that for reasons unknown, mobs just decide they can't get to you. I mean, just look at this example in Diamond East. How on earth does this work? Or this in Zul'Farrak, just standing here near these boxes. It's like those videos you see where someone's put cling film on a door and there's a cat trying to figure out how to get through this mystical, invisible barrier in front of them. I'm pretty sure there are still things like this to be discovered by mistake or otherwise that could make farming even better and more efficient than it already is. Feels like it comes down to luck in Classic. Number 9, boss difficulty. Okay, this one's a little bit different, but it's more the way players approach the game to make it as efficient as possible that's never been nerfed. Or when I say nerf, the content hasn't risen to the occasion. So what I mean is, back in vanilla, guilds would guard boss strategies as much as possible. People would hear through the chat that people have defeated these mythical, mysterious bosses and see super rare items or tier pieces to prove that was the case. It was part of what made the top guild on your server the best. You wanted to be as good as them, you had to work those boss strategies out for yourself. They aren't about to give away their secrets, their wipes, and their countless hours of hard work. Players sort of work as one big unit nowadays. Looking at the top end, speedruns by the best guilds are pretty much always live streamed on a site somewhere or other. Even the Chinese guilds are frequently watched by Western audiences to see what they're getting up to over there. These guilds could be keeping it kind of a mystery, but then again you sort of need Warcraft logs to prove and validate your time, and even then people could dig through Warcraft logs and figure out exactly how you've done each poor how. But overall it for sure makes the speedrun scene advance that much quicker, since everybody's more or less happy to share strats. And number 10, the final one, Maradon Womple. Yes, really, mages again. Look, this class is just completely broken, okay? And given that I had highlighted these other two farms, I sort of feel like I have to give this one a mention because it's the most ridiculous one of them all. The fact that a geared and knowledgeable mage can actually pull basically the entire instance of Maradon is just like, what am I looking at? It's incredible to see, to be honest. I was pretty impressed by the Zul'Farrak stuff in the graveyard initially, so when I first saw people making vids about this, it was on a whole other level. People advertised pulling upwards of 200 mobs in one go, some up to 300 with practice. Imagine that, 300 mobs, many of which are elites in one singular pull. And the time to learn this seems quite a bit higher than that of ZG as well, and you do need some certain nature as this gear to survive, but the reward can be huge, and even then a single mistake can be extremely costly time-wise because it just takes so long for the pull to happen. But this is like the magnum opus of pure insanity you can pull off as a mage, once again made possible by mob pathing. There we have it then. There was quite a lot of mage related stuff in here, but I guess that's sort of to be expected. It's funny, you know, I've never played a version of World of Warcraft that has never had any class changes, and while you sort of see now why this kind of stuff happens to be changed after a period of time, it also makes you wonder what people will discover that's totally new in TBC. It's going to be a whole new game than anything we have ever seen before, that is for certain. Anything you think I should have added, pop it down below. As always, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one very soon. If you like what you see, give the video a like and subscribe, as there'll be plenty more to come. Take care guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.